partial.
Oh,
Meeting comes to order, Chairman. Right now.
Okay.
Will we have a quorum tonight, Michael? Because
I'm sorry, ma'am.
if we don't, Steve will try and chime in, but he's not feeling very well at all.
Okay. Hi, Mary.
Hey, folks.
There.
Hi.
hello. Lake looks good.
Thank you. I think it's a little lower than probably my picture.
Yeah, probably.
Has anybody noted? I haven't been home for a bit. Is it going down pretty well or?
Slowly. Yeah.
We're at -5 inches right now.
Oh, good.
So it started at +3 on Monday, so we've gone down what, 8 inches
Yeah.
in like 60 hours.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's going slow, but that's okay.
And Mark, I talked to Mark today. He'd like to open the gate a little more because he's got to work on that pier at the town. And he wants to get
Yeah, it's a
down
bit
more
slow.
quickly than usual.
Yeah.
We're way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. So, let's call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, so that's great. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind here. Okay, minutes of last meeting. So the meeting is called to order. What time?
7:04, you said.
7:04, okay, good. Yeah, so we have a couple of procedural things to do tonight. But let's get started with the meeting minutes from last meeting. Are there any adjustments, additions, deletions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
The only item I mentioned is they showed me in attendance last week, and I was the last month meeting. I think I was on vacation.
Were you on
Okay,
vacation? I was on vacation too.
Yeah, I was on.
we were here, but still on vacation.
Okay. Correction, Bob.
That's fine.
Yeah. So, okay, so with the one adjustment, that Bob Millard was not in attendance, even though he was here in spirit.
He's here in spirit.
Here in spirit, clearly. So with that adjustment, entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
Motion to accept them.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, moving along. No guests, no audience of citizens. Communications, any communications that need to, okay.
But we should acknowledge that we got Bugby's report and
Well, I was gonna do that in water quality.
Yeah.
that's fine, but they're communications, so they ought to be,
So just lodge,
attached to the minutes.
a lodge,
You want Bugby's report attached? Yeah.
Bugby or burpee?
Burpee.
The burpee report.
I'm sorry.
The burpee report.
I mean, Bugby.
AKA. All right, so under, oh, I see what you're saying. Now I get it.
Yeah, he said it is.
Yeah, so that will be attached as a communication. And then right into the date.
All right. So we had a couple of things. We opened it for the rainstorm.
Yep.
We dropped it down and got it to even level. which seemed to work pretty good. I don't know if we needed to do it, that overflow would have probably handled that 2 inches of rain.
Okay,
So that was fine, but then, this Monday, the first, we opened the dam. It was 3 inches above, the height, and they opened it to 13 inches. That's what it's open at right now.
okay. And is that per the guidelines?
That's per the guidelines.
Okay, cool.
And so in 60 hours, which is like 2.5 days, we're at -5 inches right now.
So it went from +3,
To -5 today.
open 13,
Yep.
and then plus 60 hours
So
is now -5.
Yep.
what's that, about 3 inches in 24 hours, maybe a little more,
Yeah.
which is about normal. I think when we
Well-
open it, we drop about 4 inches a day.
Oh, I see, got it.
See,
Okay, yep.
about that.
Well, yeah, a little bit
Yeah.
more, so it's 2.5 days, but yeah, I got you, I got you.
Karen said the water temperature was 55.
Woo. And she's still skiing.
He got
She was
cold.
in-
That didn't take long.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah,
And, the weed poles, I can't see them, they're covered with the outflow. So when the water's coming out of the pipe, the water level's higher.
Oh,
Then
then the
the
weed
weed
poles.
Oh, wow.
So we can't check we can't really see what's going on.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
The other thing is like what I just said, Mark wants to, open the gate to 16. He asked, I called him today, I asked him about something else, but he wants to lower the lake and get a little lower, a little sooner than, because he noticed the water's really not going down that fast. And he wants to get it down as soon as he can to get the guys in there to pour cement around the footing at the town beach.
those films.
So I didn't tell, he wanted to know the consensus, here.
I move that we allow it, that we recommend that the town proceed to open it as wide as it wants.
Yeah,
Second,
To get it down, we have an interest in having that dock repaired quickly and appropriately so that it lasts.
so I'll send him a text, send Beth a text that we kind of agree that
Well, we haven't agreed yet.
we should.
Just, so I'm not, just hear me out. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing with what you're saying. I just want to have here in open forum to ask, are there any concerns why we would, not want to open it more, to say 16 or whatever it takes? Are there any risks in doing that?
We proved this summer that we could take it, open it to 20.
Yeah,
We're not worried about flooding anybody else out at
Yeah.
this point, so there's no reason not to open it wider.
okay.
We're drawing it down now to have all the critters migrate
Right,
to deeper water. If it's coming down a little faster, they'll migrate a little faster. Right now, it's coming down slower. It's still coming in, is what the issue is.
yeah.
yeah,
We've got a net, 2.5 down as opposed to a +4 or 5 down. So
Okay,
So last year we did the same thing. I believe we opened it up a little more. I think we only went to 12 for a while last year and then went on to open it up a little more because it was almost,
yeah.
it might almost be something we need to do. When we have, something like we did.
So-
And so I'm sorry, Mary, go ahead.
no, I agree with Henry. I think we have minimal risk. And I think there's another benefit. Henry, I have now noticed a fair amount of quote unquote nuisance native plants in the Erdoney Road area. And I think the sooner we get this down, the sooner we expose this to temperatures that hopefully will kill these things off. At least those that are exposed and on the lake bed when the water is dissipated. So I would concur.
And we're sucking more phosphorus out if we're letting it out faster because it's got more.
It's mixed, so anything from the bottom will help, but being mixed helps.
Good point.
Power and so forth, so there's no harm in taking it down faster, since we were able to do that this summer without any incident.
And no concerns with the toe of the dam saturation?
No,
anything in the backside?
we don't have both going now. We only have the pipe, so we don't have 12 inches coming down the sluice.
Got it.
So
Fair Yep.
that's half what we have in.
Yeah, and I only ask these questions in the interest of.
Yeah, well, we should tell them to watch the outflow
Yeah.
and make sure that the pattern looks acceptable.
Yeah,
Okay. That's a
You know,
good point.
because it could just swirl in a different direction without the other and create an erosion problem. So I
Okay,
would tell them, open it as wide as they want, but watch it, you know, for
Yeah.
10 minutes or so.
that exact thing is happening, Harry. When I went down there today, the last few times I've had the confluence meeting, and the water from the spillway was pushing the flow right towards the hole. But now I never really paid attention before, but coming out of the pipe, it's going across and hitting the stones, there's giant stones, and then it's going through the hole. So it's kind of slowing itself down too.
Yeah, so just to make sure it's hitting the
Yeah.
stones and not
Yeah.
dirt or something
Right.
like that, that's the main thing, yeah.
fair enough.
So
Okay,
the other thing is, he's talked about building a coffer dam to not, so he could pour the cement, but I'm not sure, he hadn't asked me to go lower than 6 inches, or whether we want, I don't think we want to go lower, I'm 6 feet, not 6 inches.
Yeah.
I think we'll just do our regular guidelines down to 6, I don't want to,
That's what his engineering plan calls for, only that, so I think we go
Yeah.
down to 6, we may end up holding it there.
right,
Because we're supposed to go to 6 and then let it start to come back up to 5.5, we may
Right.
want to hold it at 6.
Yeah.
Until they're, ready to pull the coffer dam, but I
Yeah.
don't think we need to go any lower than 6.
no, if I recall when they built it, the only part that, we were down 6 when they worked on it, whenever they built it, and it was pretty clear, except for the big giant blob of cement that was there, that was still in the water.
all right, so,
Mike, somehow I deleted Jen's when I was just sending it to Jim Santos. He can't get in.
Yeah, Jimmy's trying to get in.
oh, yes.
I don't have the email either. so-
You didn't get it either?
Well, I have it, but I can't find it.
I can't find it either, that's
Okay.
what I was gonna,
Uh,
I came in.
Yeah, all right, all right, let's just finish this
Sure.
issue and,
Yeah.
and so,
Call the question.
what do you
Make a
have?
resident, you made a,
My motion was to let the town take it down, open it as wide as they believe appropriate to lower the lake faster for purposes of dock repair, town dock repair.
And to recommend,
And to recommend that they watch the outflow for a while to make sure that it's not creating an increased erosion issue or something.
okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so moved. Thank you, everybody. Just give me a second to see if I can
Yeah.
find
you
the,
want me to
Why-
call or talk to Beth, or are you gonna send them a note, or what do you think?
I'm just gonna see if I can find the
it
email.
had to be, I'm gonna say, what was Monday's date? 11/1? Well, 11/1, Jen sent it out. So look on 11/1, Mike.
Oh, it's under Jen, that's why.
Yeah, it's under General Boyd.
Uh,
You got it, Bob?
What are we looking for?
Jen, Jen's
the
email
invite,
on the agenda to get in, Mary, the one I sent you from Jen.
Oh,
Jim Santos is trying to get into the meeting. He needs the connection, I believe.
And he can't, yeah, and I lost.
I don't have it.
oh, it's on the town website. I got it. That's how I got in. Whew. If you go to Columbia LMAC and hit agenda, it comes, you can scroll down to November 4th, and then it's right on there. I'll text Jim. Ah,
I know. I can't believe I just went to send it. And
So did Jennifer send one out? I thought
Yeah,
I
she
saw
sent-
one.
she sent it to Mike and I, and then I forwarded that to everybody.
Huh, let's see.
All right.
Let me try to get it for him.
Well, I just texted it to Jim.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, and I'll forward it to him via email now.
Did you all get the photos of the repair?
Yep,
Yeah.
Well, the agenda was with that, done in my very next email.
Oh,
So yeah.
Yeah,
And then pictures of the dam,
Yeah.
pictures of the dock.
yeah,
Here it is.
so I texted it and emailed it to him.
Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you for that report, and thank you, everybody, for your contribution to the recommendation to the town. So, so you'll,
I'll send Beth the text. I can do it right now.
okay, great.
I'll try to do it.
Yep, thank you, appreciate that. Okay, and next up is fishing. Are there any observations or concerns around fishing?
Cormorants are doing well.
mm,
Was that?
okay.
The cormorants are doing well.
Yeah.
They're eating healthy.
It looks like the ducks were out in front of my house fishing. They were just, a bunch of.
Yeah, they're
Diving, yeah. They've been diving.
My house, and they kind of hang around there all day, and they dive down,
We
they're
have,
down, they come up and you see them,
we
Yeah.
have,
sometimes they get an acorn.
we have McAndrews and Bubblehead.
I can tell you, one of the,
I
What's
saw some
bubblehead?
McAndrews.
White.
The
white-
bubbleheads or the white
The
ones?
white ones with the black head, they're smaller, the McAndrews are a little bit bigger,
Yeah.
white with
Yeah,
That red foam.
crest on the top.
Yeah,
So I thought they were loons at first, but then they were McAndrews.
yeah.
They're low in the water.
one of the eagles got a pretty good fish and ate it on our stone wall, so at least they're around.
Cool. And access, safety and regulations, I think we're all set with the gate, right? The gates,
yeah,
closed.
Gates is closed now, yeah.
And I don't think that, I didn't see a
It's
report.
it was supposed to come out this weekend, and I just got a text from Drew, so if he doesn't get it out the next day or two, Mario will come in and take it out. Yeah, it's still sitting there. He's got my trailer, so I kind of.
Okay.
You loaned out your trailer for your boat?
Yeah, he's got my trailer for my boat,
Hmm.
because he was working on it and fixing it, putting some welding that needed to be done.
Oh, fixing the trailer. That's one. Lending the trailers, a bad thing. I thought it sank my boat and didn't have a trailer.
Yeah,
So next item.
So, next item, is there anything else under access, safety and regulations that I didn't see?
you got the report, didn't you? You didn't get the report?
The
from Mark?
final report from
Yeah.
Mark? No, I didn't. That's why I
Yep, I
was,
sent that one out too.
Oh, I saw that too, yeah.
okay. Was there anything in there that we need to review?
What was there, 25 people, Mary, on that one that were chastised, if you will? I'll use that term.
Yeah,
That
what
were-
does it says, no wake buoys, blah, blah, blah. Okay, new wake buoy, think he means new wake buoys were put in the water. All
That's
boats
what it means. Yeah,
from town moorings. There was a report of a over horsepower boat, family was contacted. And towing's 11 year to date, 196 stickers, 601 non-motorized boats. 11 tows, and warnings or pullovers 25 year to date.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
That's the gist.
To let you know that I have a no wake buoy at my house. It washes the ship.
Oh, really?
Wait, it came to your house?
Nice buoy, very nice.
Yeah, they're nice. Must
So one of the new ones.
Yeah, I put it in the front yard. No. Yeah, one of the new ones,
They
yeah.
don't seem to be weighted correctly because they're tipping over. I think
Yeah, they are
need
tipping
some
over,
other kind of weight, the size of the bottom
They
weight.
need a counterweight. yeah.
It's not damaged at all.
It must be designed to have a tight rope. They
So
don't.
I just need to know who to give it to.
I was
where to
gonna
send
say,
it.
did you email anybody? 'Cause
I
now-
sent a text to Mark Walter and said, told him, where do you want me to go with that?
Okay, good.
He hasn't responded yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
his
Beth,
application.
Beth, I can text her, I know her number.
Okay, I would just
Give it to
reach out to her, 'cause she might, I think he would just end up contacting her.
I'll just get ahold of that.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
When you do that, is there a suggestion going that maybe they need to be heavier and weight?
I think anchor wise, because they seem to be tipping over a lot.
They have a water ballast, I believe those kinds, some do. If they have a water ballast, it's probably not enough.
Those
Yeah,
definitely, if there's a water ballast, then I can see it.
Yeah,
Probably needs a second.
might need to fill that up with sand or something instead of water.
It's the same on
I don't know anything
Erdoni.
about it, I'm talking about, that might be a suggestion.
It's the same on Erdoni. That thing is just
Yeah.
blowing over all the time. Hasn't landed in my yard yet though, Bob.
Load it up.
Okay,
All right.
would that be communication then over to Mark?
Okay. All right, and, okay, so we got the buoys, in need of improvement. So if you, okay. So if you could, maybe when you talk to, Beth, if you could maybe.
Yeah, I'll communicate on it.
Make
possibly,
that suggestion
yeah,
to see if there's
balanced.
any improvements, we can make there, that'd be great. All
Times
right,
two.
and what's that?
I'm sorry, times two, because the one on Erdoni is doing the same.
Oh, okay,
And they haven't removed the buoys yet from the Erdoni Road Beach. I guess they must be waiting for the lake to dissipate. Usually they take them out with a marine patrol boat.
okay. Okay. All right, watershed management plan, anything to cover there? Okay, stormwater culverts, where are we?
I can give you an update at the Board of Selectmen meeting after our meeting, or just before, maybe it might have been, no, it was on the 19th, I believe I attended on via Zoom. For the American Rescue Plan and the amount of money that's been allocated to the town of Columbia, the town did, or the Board of Selectmen did vote to use a fair amount of the initial amount. I believe it's about 480,000 out of 800,000 possible use of money from the federal government for a series of things that were discussed. Henry, you were at the public meeting relative to HVAC, fire department. Nothing was discussed in terms of stormwater management in two areas. Area one was on Pine Street. Area two was in our whole entire wetlands that feeds into Columbia Lake. However, I did note that in future projects, since this is a twofold grant of 800,000 in 2021 and 800,000 from the federal government in 2022, that the stormwater culvert for Pine Street is in future projects, but it is not at this moment for potential of stormwater management and or renovations, revisions, et cetera, for our wetlands area around the lake. The response that I got back in asking the question was that ours is a huge project. Obviously, we have almost 2,000 acres feeding into the lake. And that will require not LMAC and not Board of Selectmen. It will require first an environmental engineer. And my response back in a question, because I was on a Zoom and they had voted it in already, was for the future project to consider feasibility studies and paying that engineer. If they're going to do it on Pine Street, why not do it also in the wetlands area? So that's the update I have. There's been no official vote other than the approval of the fire department and HVAC equipment and the handicap area at the recreation. Those have all been approved for about 500,000. The rest is still, I think we can be there for discussion. I don't know if anyone else attended that meeting and had any other thoughts.
Any other comments?
Is there, Mary, is there Do you know if there's any urgency for the lake versus Pine Street? In other words, any of the culverts on the lake that may pose a bigger threat now or earlier than maybe the Pine Street?
Yeah, I do realize that there's a Pine Street issue for the culvert, the renovation of it, and a potential bridge is my understanding. I'm not familiar with the area, Bob. I think the concern for stormwater management is we are starting, even though our water quality looks good, we are starting to get a fair amount of native nuisance plant and a fair amount of cyanobacteria. This is the third or fourth year in a row that now we are seeing cyanobacteria in the summer, and not just with the thermal climate change or turnover. So it's hard, though, to say that that should be a priority. Steve Everett and Mark Walters have both gone on record saying, you know, if we do this, it'll probably be a 5-year project that we can manage appropriately. But let's start with an environmental engineer. So, you know, I would suspect Pine Street may be a bigger priority. But I don't have the full answer.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm sorry, so is there going to be a start of an environmental study, or is it
No,
just all-
it was mentioned by Steve that we really need to bring in someone who has the expertise to help us understand the issues. So
Yeah.
nothing yet. And there's nothing in specific to the American Rescue Plan for use of anything on or around or near the lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have another question because I'm not familiar with the culverts, but when they do look at the stormwater culverts that feed the lake, do they also look at the feeds that feed the water to those culverts that feed the water to the lake? They look at both?
I hope so.
They look at how the water is getting to the culvert and then getting actually into the lake?
Yes, I hope that is part of it, Bob. Over a period of years, we have seen less and less what I would call green infrastructure maintenance. Example, on Erdoney Road, we used to see the culverts and everything that would pour into it cleaned and maintained at least 3 times a year. We're lucky if we see it once a year now. So there is some concern that we could be doing some maintenance types of things and minimizing what is getting into the lake in terms of stuff, whether it be debris, bacteria, phosphorus, nitrogen. And I recognize, and Steve made mention of this, I think at the public meeting, hey, we only got 5 or 6 full-time employees. We can't do it all, blah, blah, blah. So it's obviously, you know, not a huge priority right now. That's my take anyways.
You know, I wonder if they've been to subbing that out, having those things pumped out by a subcontractor. It might be even cheaper than using our own labor.
Oh, I don't know, Jimmy. That's a good point.
You know,
It is pumped out once a year, but by the time it's pumped out, most of the stuff is gotten into the lake because we have nothing that traps it, nothing that filters it.
Right.
There has been some preliminary discussion about can we trap or filter some major storm drains, Lake Road, Erdoney, Woodland. There are 37 that are state mandated on Route 87. I don't know if the state would do it, but there were concerns about then who cleans that out, because, you know, these traps can hold 90 pounds of trash or stuff, but then who cleans that out? Well, you know, that's a plan that we would have to make in terms of if we were to start to try to trap things, then we got to figure out who's going to clean it out. And that seemed to be a concern.
Mary, another question for, because I don't know, is there a number of culverts around the lake?
70 plus, Bob. 70 plus. And about almost 40 are on Route 87, which is a state-owned highway.
The town doesn't own a pump truck, does it? Or how does the town clean our sewage? Do they have their own equipment, or they must have to?
Yeah.
Have someone come in.
Jimmy, we farm it
I
out.
only
right?
see the one on 87, it's the state.
Yeah, they put it out. I don't know if they rent the truck or if they own.
Contract it out.
Yeah, I thought it was a,
It's a subcontract.
service, you know.
It's a
Those trucks,
third-party vendor.
yeah, because they use the vac truck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
so I mean, those vac trucks are wildly expensive and maintenance hogs. I mean, they're not, you know, that's not a cheap endeavor for the town, you know, to have on their own. I mean, maybe a mini one or something, but as I understand it, they're pretty substantial. So,
Which is why maybe, you know, to try to sub it out to a subcontractor to have it done by the town. It's something to look at possibly anyhow. Maybe we could take that on.
Can people figure out what Jim's saying?
It's
Jim-
kind of hard.
Jim, you're breaking up. Could you repeat what you just said?
I just said, you know, maybe because of that, the point that you made about the expensive one, it would be cheaper to hire a subcontractor to do it twice a year. You know, it's something that maybe we could even look into for the town if they'd be open to it.
Open to adding trapping and filters.
We could
Or-
add, you know, we could maybe a la carte all different types of items.
Yeah, they pump out now at least once a year. I know
Right.
in the winter.
Right.
I think Mark is the one that would have to tell us what the
Well,
the schedule is, you know.
again, I think Beth would be the one.
Beth, yeah.
You know, she would be the one that would probably know that, you know, best.
I don't think there's an actual schedule though, because Mary, remember when you and I were there, you know, they were talking about it and they know they do it, but it's kind of a random, you know, yearly date.
It's kind of when they can get it in, because this third-party vendor does a lot of towns. That was my understanding. So it was like, well, when we can get it on the calendar. Okay. But-
Well, there
I-
must be other companies that do that.
Well, I do know, Phyllis, after the third storm, there was some discussion with Mark Walter about moving the schedule up and getting the stuff pumped out. I took pictures of it on Erdoney Road. And they were having trouble trying to move the schedule up because every other town was asking the same thing.
Okay.
So, just leave this alone for right now. Is there anything to continue with this or?
Yeah, I have a meeting with Mark Walter on a number of items, not just LMAC, and I can bring it back up and just say, per the Board of Selectmen, you know, you mentioned an environmental engineer, how can we, you know, kind of put in the action steps that would be required for us to start to try to understand better and see where they're coming from and what, you know, what their timeline thinking is. And I'm
Okay.
happy to report back in December.
Yeah, please, that would be great.
Mike, sometimes we have extra money at the end of the year. Maybe we could even kick in a little if we had extra.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't have
Much.
much, you know, a lot of that,
That's big money.
yeah, I mean, it's,
The more important thing to spend our money on.
yeah, I mean, that is substantial.
But the initial screening shouldn't be all that much. You know what I mean?
The initial, what?
Training.
You know what I mean? They'd give an overall view of it, and then they'd give us pricing to delve into what they thought would, you know, where they needed to really dive into and what they had to do. That's where I think the big money would come.
Oh, yes.
You mean for the environmental study?
Well, of course,
Yeah.
on the drainage, it could include environmental and all, but I was thinking more on the drainage type of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody saw on Lake Road, I think it's Mr. Nelson's property. It's across the street from 81 Lake Road, almost on the corner of Erdoney. The washout from Hurricane Ida and the flash flood that we had. It's the second time it's happened in a row. And he had a letter from an engineer in 2012 stating that they really needed to replace the culvert or the drainage pipe that drains into the storm culvert and then goes across the street to his house because it's washing out his driveway the second time in what, almost 10 years. Beth Lunt's comment was, that's $1 million project. So they didn't seem quite ready at that point to say, wow, you know, we just don't have the resources right now. Mark Walter did mention, if it's $1 million, if it's $2 million, then this is the type of project like the Columbia Rec Park, we would spread out over 5 to 6 to 7, 8 years. I said, great. You know, if we can get it started, I think is where everybody is. Let's understand where we're at and try to be preventative. This was actually in the wetlands management plan that was created 25 years ago, and they punted it down the road and said, well, let's wait a while. Septic tanks was another one they punted down the road. And the use of fertilizer in the wetlands area was the third thing they kind of said, well, let's wait for years to come. And I think we're starting to see cyanobacteria, and some of that fertilizer is washing right into this year, especially right into the lake from wetlands, not just from lakefront.
We can't advance any of these tonight. Let's.
Yeah.
But I got a suggestion, because one of the things we have to talk about tonight is our RFPs coming back in. And these are fair questions that we could be asking and picking the brains of if we interview anybody.
Yeah.
And because this could be, you know, we've kept it flexible as to what they might need to study or whatever, and we could ask them how would they tackle this issue. And that would give us some free guidance and sense of direction.
Good point.
Sounds good.
Old business,
All right.
Phyllis.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's see here. All set there. Dam emergency plan. Any discussion there tonight? Okay. Permit review.
I have one that my sister didn't get in. She needs to repair her dock because it got washed out by Ida. She thought that you could do repairs without a permit, but I said to get one. So I was hoping to run into Steve tonight. As I understand it, everything doesn't need to come back to us if it's routine, right? So if Steve meets with her and approves it and it goes to the selectmen, she can get started on the repair as soon as the water gets down, right?
Yeah, repairs aren't supposed to have any issues.
Well,
If it was
you
taken.
gotta go to selectmen first, then. they
Yeah,
send
yeah,
it.
but I mean, it doesn't have to come back here in December. That's what I'm trying to avoid.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just
So-
bless it.
Just a review, just a walkout review to make sure it's
Yeah.
okay. The subcommittee looks at it and says, yeah, that's
I
it.
don't even know if that can be up to Steve. All she's doing is rebuilding the dock that's there, and it's shown on the tax assessor's map.
Henry, as I recall, it'll go to Jennifer, and if it's an emergency repair, which this sounds like, then it's blessed.
Yeah, well, the emergency's kind of gone
Well,
by, but that's what I was wondering, you know, it did just float off its face, so we pulled it up on the wall. But, you know, some of it was sufficiently decayed that it only makes sense as long as we're having to restructure it to replace some of the timbers and put it back out. But
there's nothing
I
changing.
told her, because I'm on LMAC, I didn't want her to be doing anything that somebody questioned.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay,
There you go.
That's new.
Yeah.
so you've not submitted it yet, so we won't
No,
have it.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
But I just wanted to get the sense that, yes, if we go to Steve and Steve says, okay, send it to the selectmen, we don't need to wait to come back here.
No.
Well, again, you know, if there aren't any, as I understand it, if there aren't any it's a
Changes.
repair and material changes, it's,
It's gonna look the same, only newer.
yeah,
It's,
well,
It's a 20 by 4 foot dock, in 2 sections.
oh, she's gonna completely rebuild it?
Well, there's parts of it that can be reused, yeah, but in the decking maybe part.
Oh, well,
That's the one they take apart and put up on shore.
Right, yeah. Half of it comes up on shore, half of it stays in place.
yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that should probably get some review. I mean, if you're gonna be dismantling and recreating it.
It's 5x4, she should just go for 5x5, 20x5, like,
Yeah,
You're allowed.
she doesn't want to make it any bigger. Because they're gonna reuse what she's got, and it's worked for, that dock probably is 50 years old.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess I would just put it through the process.
Yep.
Let's see where it goes.
Are there any
Because,
permits tonight?
well, Steve's not here, I guess, what's the status of Carmen's?
Of what?
Apartments.
One Beach
Oh.
Road.
Carmen
Okay.
Vance. I
Well,
was looking
thank
at my
you.
email. Yeah,
If I may,
sure.
Mike, I don't know if you were apprised or if Steve was coming to discuss it, but I'll give you my perspective of a series of events that happened Sunday into Monday. Monday was our Wetlands Committee. As you know, I am on that committee. I was at the meeting. Steve Harrington unfortunately was not. At our last LMAC meeting, I did express concerns about the potential, and setting aside who it is, that the lake bed may be filled in. And the measurement was 110, 120 square feet. Mike, the takeaway that I took was you were going to try to contact John Valenti and have a goodwill discussion. I don't know if that happened or not, which is neither here nor there. The day before wetlands, which was Sunday, I received the wetlands agenda, and on the wetlands agenda was for approval, after we had discussed, we wanted to talk to John Valenti first, LMAC to John, that the Beach Road property be approved by wetlands. And I sent an email, Mike, as a courtesy, I copied you, to John Allen, the commissioner, and John Valenti, and the new lady, who is John Valenti's replacement, stating LMAC had discussed this. LMAC had some concerns about filling the lake bed and part of the lake bed. And I wanted everyone to be aware of those and that we should discuss them before we vote on the approval. Monday afternoon, I received a phone call from Mark Walter saying that based on the email I had sent, that, how did he put it? Steve Everett and John Valenti had a discussion. And based on that discussion, regardless, LMAC had approved. And I thought last month, Mark Walter allowed us a contingency until we talked to wetlands, but no, there's no contingency. LMAC has approved this. The Board of Selectmen has approved this, and it's a done deal.
When did you
It's a
Well,
done
wait a
deal.
Well, we were supposed to review that.
Well, yeah, I thought we were supposed to review, I thought that was gonna be presented after some review. I thought that was going to be presented, the data was gonna be presented.
Well, we were trying to claw back the fact that Steve had approved it and the selectmen had approved it. But
And
there had been a contingency, as I understood it, that the final location of the wall line was subject to John Valenti's say-so. After things had gotten pulled apart or further investigated, so that we were trying to reopen the situation on the basis that John was going to have the final say as to where the new wall was gonna go.
Correct.
If we
And
recall,
whether it was a new wall.
Steve didn't want to really be responsible for saying yay or nay on that without
Right.
Valenti's feedback.
He had already
Well,
said.
he got Valenti's feedback. Steve Everett and John Valenti had a conference call before wetlands, before any vote, before any approval. And the Board of Selectmen have approved, and Mark Walter called me stating the same thing. There's no contingencies other than what was in the letter sent, which are the typical contingencies, and that this had already been approved by the Board of Selectmen. I will tell you, I went on record at Wetlands to say, and this is my personal, and then what LMAC, but personally speaking, this isn't about one property. This is about that we are allowing the lake bed to be filled, whether it be 120, and I have since learned that this has happened several times, up to and including 7 feet worth of fill in one particular property. And the decision is being made by one person with no one else having knowledge. And my concern is, if I had the property and the person next to me, I want to treat the town property like my property, infringed upon me 3 or 4 feet, I certainly would think that's encroachment and would probably do something. And representing the town, I believe we have to have the same premise. Therefore, and John Valenti says, I can't argue with that. I think that moving forward, I'm not going to talk about any property in the past. I understand up to and including Beach Road, it's a done deal. Moving forward, we should, in the guidelines where we say you cannot change the shoreline, have some sort of language that would, and we can do this in subsequent meetings, but I started to write something out, but in essence, that would say, if the shoreline was going to be changed, that the standards, that we would have to provide proof of why an encroachment on the town land would happen, erosion as an example, and that there have to be some proof as to where the old wall was or the old structure was, and or an A2 survey or whatever. I mean, we can get into details later. But I can tell you, there was emotion, there was agita, and frankly, I don't get paid enough to have the emotion and the agita that was presented.
It's simple enough to also say that any shoreline erosion needs to be repaired within 24 months, or it establishes a new shoreline.
Okay, I mean, I
So
think these are things we have to discuss thoroughly.
So let me just add to what you just said, Henry. So if that was the case, and they haven't repaired their wall for over 2 years, are you saying that they cannot go back to the original point?
That's what I would be saying, yes. I mean, that
So-
wall has been down for
That wall,
10, 20 years.
I'm right next door.
Yeah.
I'm my mother-in-law's house, it's not my house, my mother-in-law's house, but I maintain the house. I look over the property. That has been down for over 2 years, and you can't even see where the existing wall is.
I know,
Exactly.
that's why.
So I can see where John Valenti would come in and bless this and give us the nod and say, hey, this is where you need to go to, but you're actually giving them more than what you just stated could be a lot less because of the erosion, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's why I'm saying, if you're gonna repair erosion, you can't let it go for years and then say, prior owner, let the wall go into decay, and I've been living with it for 10 years, and now I want to reestablish it. By the way, I'm gonna put a patio on it.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a way that we can, close that loophole going forward, but I do think we should allow for the possibility of the need to repair for erosion, because our walls are being undermined, and one of these storms is gonna take another wall out.
Here, here.
It's gotta be a case by case, because I would buy the vote, and whatever they do there is gonna be better than what's there.
Yeah, there's nothing left.
They
Matter of fact, the
Leave it
legal
like
growth
that
of
is-
shrubs is
yeah.
exposed, the shrubs.
just say they gotta leave it that way, is not good for anyone.
Oh, nobody's saying that. No. Nobody's saying that. What is being said is how far out in the lake can you go? You're
Well,
filling
well-
in lake bed.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I know,
exactly.
well,
I'm not,
well,
doesn't look like they're.
what I heard, just for what it's worth, and I appreciate where you're coming from. What I heard was, is that, fix it or lose it. And meaning, if I don't fix my wall and it falls into the lake and then I don't fix it for 10 or 20 years.
Or
and it
60.
erodes-
And it could erode 10 feet in.
it could
Well, they
erode 10
created a new shoreline, that's where you have to put your new wall.
And then, so he's saying, if you want a new wall, well, you've lost the right to go back
Yeah.
10 feet, but you can put a wall where it is. And I'm just, the point is, and I think the point that needs to come clear here is that, we want to promote maintaining of the lake walls, and
Right.
if we
Yeah.
put it in the context of, repair it or lose it. I think
That'll have that repair made earlier before additional erosion occurs.
I think people will become highly motivated to,
Yeah.
repair their walls. That's all. I think it's the
Sooner than
context of it that I think.
And you might give them 3 years or whatever,
Or
but
could be, whatever,
this has been down for years.
yeah,
This- this
decades, probably
wall. I
decades.
think it's been down since Carmen and Jan bought it,
Yeah.
Exactly, Henry. But yeah, I would like to just share two learnings that came out of this that I was totally unaware of. This has been going on for years, that the lake bed has been allowed to be filled in when lake walls are being constructed. So for as long as Valenti's been here, although he said it's not common, it's been going on. He admitted that. The issue becomes, I can tell you immediately 3 cases where the perception, if the people were to find out, would be there's a double standard because that was not allowed. And I did ask that for my wall in another property. So I think we have to be really careful that we have appropriate standards to say, this is why you would be allowed to do it. And they have to be stringent standards, or we're going to have a lot of people who are going to come and say, well, she filled hers in, he filled his in, and now I can't fill mine in. I didn't even know this was a common or a practice for many years. And I asked, I said, well, what's the worst case scenario? Well, someone asked for 15 feet and we gave them 7. So they came out 7 feet? Oh my God. So,
This is just gonna go down as one more case we don't wanna remember, like the senator that has a wider
yep.
ramp that's filled with sand.
And move their dock over 30 feet.
Yep.
I kept my boat there for 10 years. I
So
know.
forth. So there,
When Jim Carrey owned it.
this was a former first selectman who, got a little perk.
Yeah,
In all fairness, this former first selectman enjoys the lake, loves the lake, as does the builder. And they both are, he said that at the wetlands committee, but that's not the issue. The issue isn't this one. The issue is this has been a common practice, and yet there's a double standard, and we need to revise our guidelines to manage this better.
Yep.
Well,
Particularly
Understood and agreed.
It shouldn't be
Yeah.
happening now that we're monitoring the walls as they go up, because we're telling them where the wall has to be, and people are going out and doing interim inspections.
yes,
But,
right.
but Henry,
But
and this
also-
comes,
but
one of
also,
the things,
what good's it revising the standards if they're not even listening to us? They
well,
just.
no, but Jim, there is an opportunity. The subcommittee for LMAC needs to be recreated in a fashion that they know if the lake bed's going to be filled in, all of LMAC needs to be aware of it and work with the new John Valenti, because John Valenti's gone in a couple months. So we have an opportunity to fix ourselves, and we have an opportunity to work better with the new wetlands person, Isabel.
And we need to do all of that, Mary, I agree. And the only filling in ought to be because erosion has occurred recently.
Exactly.
So Mary, is the application approved as of
Oh,
today?
oh my God.
It was done.
Oh, it's done?
Yeah,
It's done.
unfortunately, our LMAC subcommittee sent it through and we weren't aware of it. I became aware of it on the wetland site visit. John Valenti changed his mind at the wetland site visit. He said, "You're right, we shouldn't do this." And then the next thing I know, John Valenti said, "Well, I think it's okay if we went out 3 or 4 feet." I just went, oh my God.
He's bowing to political pressure, he's just an employee.
They're just
Yep.
gonna go even with your wall. Right? You
Yeah.
see,
Yeah, I don't think
they're not
there's-
going out that much.
I don't think there's
If
any
the wall is
intent.
this thick, that's what it's gonna be.
I honestly don't think there's any deliberate intent to go beyond or to
Yeah.
reclaim, it's just to go back to where it was, which should have been done less than 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Or less than.
it's gonna be like,
Less than 10 years ago.
basically the wall's gonna be 2 feet thick and it's gonna be.
Which should have been done in a more expeditious.
No,
time.
they want to fill in the lake bed, David. They want to go out 4 feet.
Well, I didn't see anything, I just looked at the wall that was there.
Well, they want to match, I think they want to,
They wanna match your wall.
the
They
other,
want to match our wall, but
And it's going like this,
it's like this right now.
yeah,
Here's my wall and theirs is here,
yes.
and it's all washed.
So the base of their stones is actually still there.
We
Yes.
have an issue to help Steve at the moment.
Yeah.
We talked about it the last time that we
Yeah,
had,
the
there
stones
was
are there.
nobody else.
The base
on
is-
the base is
They might be better.
on that subcommittee.
so let's,
That's right,
let's,
that's what
let's,
you needed to
let's,
extend it, yes.
let's move on and we can,
Okay.
Well, can we talk about how we're gonna get more people on this? Are we gonna
On the
wait to
subcommittee.
recruit more people to this?
well,
committee?
yeah, if you want to talk about that now, let's talk about it. So clearly, I think, this brings up, a weakness in the board in that we don't have enough people reviewing these. I think Steve has been very clear about, his hesitancy.
Hesitancy.
I'm so glad this is being recorded. To be doing this alone. It's a tough thing for him to do on his own, just, from a workload standpoint, but as well, it doesn't offer him protections to have, someone working with him to help make some of these determinations and certainly, one of the things that we need to do as a board, which is, prior, in prior years, all of the permits were at least reviewed. And I mean reviewed, meaning, they were just brought to the board. It was a simple repair, I want to replace 2 2x4s. Here was the permit, and this was given an administrative approval. Okay, fine, but it was recorded, it was part of the meeting. Every single permit came to the board, which I'm in favor of returning to.
To the subcommittee,
No,
returning to the board.
returning, well, no, the subcommittee needs help. For one, that's item number one, but from a procedure standpoint,
Here, here.
that we need to move to a model or process by which, the subcommittee is given certain license to make administrative approvals, but that even if they do, it still comes in front of the board, even if it's 2 weeks later.
Right, so we can critique it. if
So
we
we
need
can,
to.
we can just say, so everybody's aware of it.
So the subcommittee can do an onsite, yes, go ahead and do it, still gets funneled through the board.
Still
here,
gets presented,
Minuted or and then recorded.
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Here.
Which we never did before, but it was
No, we
mostly
did.
because was Mark or
Mark
who was the head of it,
Coleman,
they were just the ones who did it.
Mark Coleman did it
Yeah.
every single time.
Every single time,
Every
when I
single
first
time.
started on this, they all came. through.
Yeah, and even with Chick, they,
But before that,
every
it was,
single time.
before that, it was just a select, that no
Yeah.
one, no one else went out.
Oh, yes, yes,
Before
I'm
them.
I'm sorry, yes.
Before those two. yeah.
Before it was part of the process here, yes, you're jumping way back.
Ah,
But,
You're showing your
Well,
age, David. You're showing your age.
So you want the subcommittee to go out, review it, and make a recommendation to the board saying,
Yeah.
the subcommittee believes that this should be done.
And maybe I should just maybe draft a proposed process.
Yeah,
That's probably what I need to do to just help draw the line here. But basically, it's going back to previous processes by which a permit is submitted, or an application is submitted, the subcommittee reviews it, makes their site visit, and then makes any recommendations based on the criteria of the conditions that are found on site, and in conjunction with the guidelines, it makes a determination. And at that point, there are two paths. One path is that it's a very simple minor repair, routine repair. I want to repoint the joints in my wall. I want to, replace a couple of boards, nothing material in nature, not changing anything, not making any wholesale replacements, anything like that. Where they can make on site the administrative, approval, and then, I should say this, the administrative recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, where they could just do that, but still, they would bring that to the board at the next meeting, to our board.
so it would go to our board before going to the selectmen.
No,
It's still saying go to the selectmen, but bring it back to the board, so it's documented.
so it's documented. That's option number one. Or on site, they determine that there are material changes, material replacements that really need review by the board holistically, whereas they can say to the property owner, I cannot make a determination on this here. I need to bring it to the next Columbia Lake Advisory Committee meeting. You are welcome to come and speak in your behalf on what you're trying to do here. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with it. I'm just saying that there are enough changes here where it needs to come in front of the committee before the committee makes a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
But that is the way it was.
And that is the way it was, and all I'm saying is that I believe that it's important to go back to that process.
I think we had a little bit of trouble where people were coming into meetings thinking we had the power to approve.
Well, Bob Davies.
And we always had to
one
tell them,
night.
we're coming here, but we don't have that power.
No,
The
but I
select-
think-
We only can recommend to the selectmen what we want to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in
But,
all
yeah.
defense, I was one of those people here at the
Yeah.
LMAC meetings, and I went through the process. I thought it was a very good process, because
Yeah.
I had diagrams, we shared the
Yeah.
information, told them exactly what we're gonna do. It was a lot of good interaction, because a lot of good knowledge on this side, as, being an audience of citizens. But when I walked out, I felt that it was confirmed, yeah, it's a great plan, we're gonna give the approval, and then it went to the first selectman.
Board of Selectmen
It was
and
approved within a week,
Yeah,
so I really didn't wait that long. The process actually worked pretty well for me. I have no complaints about it being
Well-
delayed or anything.
Well,
Bob, I
and
concur. We did that 16 years ago. We went
Yeah,
to, well, the worst case was LMAC approved it, the board looked like it was going to approve it, and then Valenti had a question, and it became an issue.
I-
But we fixed
I
it.
had Valenti, I had the LMAC committee come out and review the property before we did the work.
Yep.
There was a lot of good dialogue here in this room on the meeting and what the approach was, and a lot of good
Yep.
suggestions on how we do it. And it went pretty
I always
well.
remember is,
I think there's a lot of people out there that think that it's a hassle to go through this process, but it's really not.
not at all,
You do it right, it's not really a hassle.
yeah.
not at all. And even back then, they made us put pins in the lake bed so we could triangulate, and it was literally, we could prove with an A2 survey, it was put exactly where it had to be.
We did some of that with Mr. Valenti as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Are you going to write something down?
so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We need two people tonight to volunteer to be temporary committee members here because we got permits out there, things are gonna be built, including Carmen's. They've gotta be observed in accordance with the regulations. Steve's the only one on the committee, he spends most of his time in Florida.
Yeah,
During the
and Bob
winter time.
resigned for that reason.
And Bob was doing the same thing, this is part of the process by which this thing started to fall apart a bit, because the committee wasn't around. We need to recruit more people and hopefully pass that off, but right now we need 2 people that are here in the winter time to oversee the project that approved.
I'd be willing to do it,
Henry,
not permanently.
I'm already on wetlands, so I'm already showing up at these properties. I'm happy to do it.
So
And
which way are we?
I'll be the backup, I'll be the third, I'll volunteer until this time next year.
Yep,
I
okay.
can do it.
Because I'm already getting these.
Mary and Henry.
So
My
Dave,
problem is it's usually dark when I get home from work and I'm away on weekends, so
yeah,
that's.
but you can always still
We can
be,
work it out.
you could be, they can take, you know, they can take pictures, or it's a Saturday.
We can go on a
you know,
Saturday.
You know, that there's ways, but your feedback, you know, I think is still, you know, even if you can't always be there, I think your
Yeah.
feedback would be.
Right.
The main
Right,
reason,
usually what happens is you need to inform the people that these aren't the right things that we have for guidelines, you know, they want a big dock and
Yeah.
we're not, that's not
Exactly.
gonna happen. But most of what we're gonna be doing, most of what we do is to check out grandfather docks to make sure they're putting the same thing.
well, we're making sure that they're gonna be doing the things in accordance with the approved plan.
Yeah,
And that's the reason to have an interim inspection, and it needs to be done by 2 people for the same reason that Steve says. None of us need to have the full weight of saying you're screwing up
Yeah.
on one person's shoulders. And so that's why,
Thank you.
you know, whether it be a Saturday or whatever, we have to go out for a half an hour and look at it and say, yeah, you're going according to plan or you're not.
And, yeah.
So
So
Bob's
I
not,
think, so I also want to point out that one of the things that is different now that Bob brought to this process, to this subcommittee, is what, you know, is the interim and completion inspection.
yeah, he did.
Because that never happened.
Exactly.
That's where certain builders decided that, oh, I've got my approval, now I can go do whatever I want.
Yeah, and that's how the lake bed got partially filled in.
Yeah, so that's, you know, there are
Yeah,
certain
we have-
builders that knew that certain builders or builder,
Right, we won't mention
any
names.
names.
We don't know the initials.
You know, that would openly, you know, just go and build whatever, you know.
Cavalier.
Yeah, cavalier, I guess,
so on the subcommittee, you're gonna have Mary, you, Henry, as backup, Dave. And then Steve is going to be primary, right? Primary is gonna be Steve and Mary, right, Mary?
Steve, Mary.
Yeah, well, I have a wetlands this week. I don't know if it's even on the lake. Wetlands has 3 field visits, but I haven't seen where they are yet. So, but that's why I'm happy to do it. I'm already going to these properties.
Mike,
Okay,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You'd mentioned at the beginning of this discussion, are we gonna allow the subcommittee to approve it if it's minor? Or are we not doing that?
No, again, if it's a small repair, or, you know, for example, I need to replace, you know, 3 out of my 20 deck boards, or I need to, you know, repoint some mortar joints in my wall. You know, if it's more of a light repair, then the subcommittee can make a administrative approval on site with the property owner, but still, that recommendation still needs to be sent to the board of,
LMAC,
no, it still needs
Board
to
of
be.
Selectmen.
There still needs to be sent to the Board of Selectmen, but it still needs to come back here,
Right.
just for general awareness and also, any
Documentation.
documentation for the process. But when they can't make an administrative approval, that then needs to come back here and be presented to LMAC, and preferably that the property owner will come.
Yeah, if it can't be an administrative approval, it's gotta go through us, then the Board of Selectmen get a permit. Minor thing, like what we're talking about, this is what I'm asking is, and now if it's approved, then the landowner can do it immediately, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's the important thing, especially, I mean, you used a really minor item, like one board, two boards being bad. But if a board breaks, you're gonna fix it. You're not gonna wait for anybody's approval. Because you don't want a kid to walk up.
Yeah, so that's different. That's called an emergency repair.
Yeah.
And
Right.
anybody could make those at any time, but they still need to come and
Document.
document.
So you want to treat it like the subcommittee is the ones who can't approve, but if it's something that shouldn't be approved, this board becomes like the Board of Appeals or something. Is that what you're trying to talk about? You know what I mean?
Well, in spirit, yes, it's
Lake
not.
Management Board of Appeals.
It's not an appeal, meaning it
Yeah.
hasn't been rejected.
Yeah.
And they're coming here for an appeal, but it's been determined that the nature of this work that is being applied for is significant enough.
Yeah.
That it needs to have LMAC review, and to your point, Bob, that, there's an opportunity here for all the knowledge on this board to give feedback to the property owner or the contractor to say, oh, hey, make sure, you might want to pay attention to this or that or whatever it is.
Because it's gonna be setbacks and.
It's more of an
First of all, this new
opportunity.
subcommittee, it is only gonna be really monitoring the permits that have already been gotten. We're so point in the year that we're really not gonna see
Yeah.
permits come in December because they aren't gonna be done. There might be a few stragglers,
Yeah,
like my sister, but in general, if it's just repair or building in place, nothing new's changing, the committee should be able to go ahead. If there's some kind of change taking place, they're gonna move a dock, they're gonna build a new structure, that should come back and be reviewed. The subcommittee can also, on the other hand, say you can't do that. The rules don't need, you don't need to come back here for that kind of approval. You can just say you can't do that. You can do it this way, trying to help steer people in the right direction.
Landowners should be able to come and make their case. That's the point I'm trying to make. If
they
the
can, yes, Jim.
done, that gives the landowner an opportunity to make their case in front of us, and then we could educate them or disagree, agree, or like.
Jimmy, that's exactly what I did. I did it for 2 docks and for 2 seawalls, and I got a lot of good input here and from Mr. Valenti as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Seawalls are,
Mike, just to kind of conclude this, what you're suggesting in terms of process is exactly what wetlands does. The thing that facilitates it so nicely is, I think her name is Flo, the person who supports the wetlands, scans all of the permit information, so a permit application and any diagram, and we can review it before we get to the wetlands meeting, which are mostly now all Zoom. And therefore people are ready and we're not spending all night reading stuff. So part of the process may be we want to send something out before so everybody's aware of, this is the 5 things we're reviewing this week.
Right.
what I meant was wetlands is gonna be involved in the walls and like what we're talking about with
Right.
building out in the lake. But the docks themselves, just docks, wetlands isn't involved in that, right?
No.
No.
Well.
So if we got a permit, that was.
Technically, they are,
Perfect
because
permit, we don't have to
that's
go.
the lake,
Oh, okay, fair enough.
but they haven't really, weighed in heavily on that in the past.
No,
So,
Correct.
Mary,
Correct.
and maybe you and I can talk about this offline, is there, any, process that, inland wetlands, has written? Because maybe I just take that and modify it.
Yeah, let me look into the regulations. I have their packet and I'll send it to you. I'll
Okay,
send
thank
you
you.
whatever, or I can just
Thank you.
write it up real quick as to what they do. Flo probably has it. I'll just check in with her.
Okay.
so we need to get, well, I don't,
Well,
if we go on the website, the town website, I can make a copy of the guidelines.
Yeah, the
current
guidelines are right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
but-
but I'm talking about process. There's
You
a
just want the
yeah.
process. You don't want the
Yeah.
guidelines. Those
No,
things
no,
are,
and all I'm
Well, if I'm going
saying
out
is,
to talk to someone, I need the
yeah,
guidelines.
and by the way, just in the spirit of collaboration here, I'm not gonna write the process and, I'm gonna write it as a draft for us to discuss and review and critique and improve and,
I should have something like that.
I don't think he does. I don't think so.
Mike, when does the subcommittee go out to do these inspections?
When they get a call from the selectmen.
I mean, is that on a weekend? Is it?
Anytime.
It's when.
anytime, Bob.
Whenever. Right, the
That's
schedule.
So there is a point, a focal point that coordinates the subcommittees
Yeah.
that meet at this point, at this time?
Yeah,
Correct.
They usually go right to the property.
Is
Yeah,
that gonna be Steve?
It,
Well,
well, it has been.
until
I think
Steve-
Mark Walters informs what's going
Well,
on.
once Steve is in Florida, it'll have to be one of the three of us, but,
Because I would definitely like to be involved in this, just to gain some knowledge.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Because it's.
I think it's a good
I'm sure
idea
there's
to
a
almost
lot of different
have like an
scenarios
open
out there.
subcommittee in a way.
yeah.
Well, you're gonna need,
So
I'm happy
you're in.
to, I'm happy to withdraw my volunteer.
All right, you're out, Bob, you're in.
Careful what you ask for, Bob.
No, the only condition is I don't have the knowledge that you may have, that's all.
Guidelines on the
knowledge reasons.
Well,
Well,
Bob, it's very instructive.
Why?
It's very instructive, Bob, I have to say,
Yeah,
having been on
What's that?
wetlands now.
Excuse
It's
me.
very instructive. It's very helpful to help understand things.
could I ask a question though? Does it really have to be specific people as long as a group of people come from our committee? Why does it have to be 2 or 3 people that have to do it all the time? As long as we garner enough people, or, a couple people to go to cover these things.
still have to have a point person.
Yeah, Jim, there does need to be some continuity, because then what happens is, we got an application, who's gonna go do it? And so I think, if there's a need for, at least 2 people to go make the inspection, if we say that's the minimum for the inspection,
Yep.
then having a group of 3 or 4 people, would be great, because then there are, primaries and all, not even primaries and alternates, but at least all 4 can show up, or
yeah,
just
But I-
2, but the agreement is that we need to at least have 2 people going to the site.
No, I agree that. I understand that, Mike. That makes perfect sense. My only question was that the continuity is that we're gonna, even if it's approved, it's gonna be run by the whole committee. So we all understand and we all know what's being approved and there's consistency, right? I thought that's what you said earlier.
Well, so, yeah, so again, bringing general awareness of these applications and approvals and recommendations to the board, is really happens when this is all brought back to LMAC, whether or not it was an administrative approval or if it's seeking, approval from LMAC as a whole. I think there's, that's where the awareness happens as a committee.
But you still have to have a point person who's gonna pick up the phone and say, we got a permit.
right. Let's
Absolutely.
be here.
Yeah, and
And
are you available to meet?
Yeah.
And then an email can go out or a phone call and say, hey,
And that subcommittee, so right now, that subcommittee is Steve, Mary, Dave, and Bob,
It's,
and Henry's an alternate.
it's gotta be, and Steve will be that coordinator for now,
Right.
and then the other group can decide after that. But the one thing I also want to point out is that in the pre-construction review phase, which has happened on all the permits so far, the people that are reviewing it are supposed to determine what construction phase inspections are gonna be needed.
Yeah.
You can decide on one, or because of what's happening, you can say, when you put in your footing for the wall, I wanna be there. When you, start to build, put in your footings for your dock, I wanna be there, you know, so you can pick one or more locations for the timeframe of the construction. I suspect that Steve did not do that for One Beach Road, but we'd have to check with it, and if nothing else, there ought to be at least one inspection to keep John
Yeah,
or Jim rather.
yeah.
Does wetlands go out like that in the middle and look?
Yes, and so, you know, for his, I would say, once you've laid out the string for your footing, call us.
I thought we were doing 3. I thought on the inception, on our site visit, then I thought in the middle of the construction, we
Yeah.
were taking another picture.
Yeah.
And then before it was finalized and
Correct.
put together and sent to bed, we were taking a third picture, so we had the documentation.
No, but the third one was at the very end, but the middle one is not limited to one. It can be any number.
Oh, I
They
see
just
what you're
need-
saying. Yeah.
Now, what's the chain of command? If we would go out and see that they're way out of compliance, you call Mark?
Yeah, you call Mark.
You have to call Mark,
They have
right?
to stop, you know, or like, you know, or
Or
like.
John, or what, you know, Mark to put the wheels in motion to
Yeah,
make
right,
sure
to say-
the correct things are gonna happen.
Just keep in mind though, that, you know, when a job's going on, we don't dictate the schedule. So if we want 4 or 5 inspections, I mean, we're gonna have to get out there while it's happening and not expect them to stop and wait for an approval for these these 3.
Yeah.
Well, we've always done that, haven't we?
Well, no,
If we ask more inspections, it's one thing if you have a start and an end inspection, it's not a big deal. But if you have 2 or 3 in between, you know what I mean, that's gonna be incumbent on us. I just wanted to make that point.
Well, I think we have to coordinate also with wetlands. I can tell you, I had a conversation with Valenti, actually 2 this week. And Valenti said the last thing he's doing, his last act, is that he will be doing all on-site inspections of One Beach Road to ensure it is constructed exactly how, whatever it is they agreed to. So
Yeah.
maybe we need to coordinate this with wetlands, because John is doing it before,
That's a
during,
great
and
idea.
after.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
good idea.
Well, and Jim, you know, I'm gonna say that like any inspection for any permit, you know, is that if I'm a builder and, you know, I call for an inspection of rough electrical and, you know, I go and cover it with sheetrock, I'm at risk. Because the electrical inspector, you know, if he can't get there for 2 days or, you know, 3 days or whatever it is, I'm at risk if I cover that up.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with a contractor saying, I think I'm gonna be ready for that inspection in 2 days.
Right.
To alert you ahead of time, as opposed to say,
But if we're saying that, that's why I wanted to make the point. And we have to give the contractor this criteria, saying that you got to call us before you finish this part of the phase, or that, or whatever.
Jim,
Other,
I agree, and we're getting into the weeds at this. Let me just write the draft process, and then we can, you know, we can beat it up.
well, we've already got that as part of the process. Yes, when you go out for your preliminary inspections, you write down what phases you're gonna wanna have the other inspection, and you tell the contractor, I need to see it here, and I need to see it there. And it's the contractor's job to let you know.
Fair enough, but you know, when we have this, when we have a draft. Then
And
we
the
can-
first inspection would tell you if they're putting footings in, then you have to be there at a certain time. If they're not putting footings in, there's, you know, that's gonna be built up, because you could build a dock easily in one day. I mean, boom, it's done. If you have a little crew, because we're not talking big docks.
Well, you gotta put some onus on the owner too, because
Yeah.
the owner's gotta do some coordination, because what I have to do is get a hold of Valenti to be there on Monday
Yeah,
prior to us backfilling. Valenti wanted to see the felt inside of the dirt before we
Yeah.
backfilled with stone and before any dirt went onto the.
All right,
that's definitely.
So I hear you. So, guys, I think we've discussed this enough. Let's move on. So, any updates on, John Burrell's retirement?
No, we haven't been able to get together with John.
Yeah, okay. And, no worries. I just am, letting everybody know that, I spoke with Mike Armstrong, and he has decided that LMAC is not a good fit for him.
Okay,
And so he'll be moving on. So,
I think the recruiting thing is a little tough. I mean, we tried to recruit Ramsey, and he's not really interested if we think he would have been.
well,
You know what I mean? It's kind of tough to pull someone in.
I think it's a good idea that Mike had, we ought to invite people to come to a few meetings before they are
Yeah.
put on.
And
yeah,
that's what we all did, honestly.
yeah.
Well, I did invite Kennedy again, but I haven't
Okay.
heard from him.
Yeah, and I think it, I mean, obviously, we'll just keep putting it out there and we'll see who's interested. And, there have been a couple of people who've gone so far as to email the town and say, hey, I'm interested. And then, I get this forwarded, I get copied on a reply from Mark Walter to this candidate. And, I reach right out and I say, hey, boy, we'd love to, have you be part of the board. Why don't you come to a couple of meetings and we can, you can see kind of what it's like, and, it's crickets, so.
I got a couple of friends that, I don't even know if I'd want them to do it.
Yeah, well, and that's fine, so don't
Recommend them.
I mean, I'd rather have no
Like
one.
the job bad, oh my God.
What do we officially have for vacancies?
Well, and John Burrell is retiring.
2 people.
Yeah, so
He is definitely. retiring.
technically, it's 11 plus CLA, or one spot for the CLA, so it's 12.
So Barry, is that your spot?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
so right now we have 9 total, so we have
We need
three
three?
spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have
Now,
3.
does that change how we handle the quorum?
yeah.
Yeah, so technically, right now, our quorum is 5.
Mhm.
No, Mike, I didn't think so. I thought a quorum went on the 12. Are you sure?
Not now, not now.
Not now,
Because you're saying, so if we only had 3 members, a quorum would be 2?
If you only had 3,
Yeah,
yes.
the quorum is.
More than half.
More
It's a
than
third.
half, yeah.
No, I know, but isn't it more than half of what a full board?
It's a
Correct,
third.
yes, because there are vacancies, you don't stop the work of the board because you've got all the vacancies.
yeah, so right now, technically, our quorum is 5. There's 9 people on the board, so we need 5.
That's fair.
You got 4. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so, if anybody has thoughts about.
Yeah,
Try.
definitely, I'll ask her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta try.
Yeah. And Mark Walter will leave his old business, this inflatable raft permits, and an update on cyanobacteria, any updates there?
What's the inflatable raft thing?
It exists.
That's where he was going to write to the residents and put together a piece that said, if you have inflatables, here are the things that you need to do. They need to be removed on weekends.
Right.
Ben Burpee sent another excellent monthly report from Ecosystem, and he addressed cyanobacteria. It's common, it's being seen across Connecticut lakes, and bottom line, just tell people and pets to stay away from it.
Okay,
And they are suggesting we need to get quicker turnaround if it, for any reason, we're above a certain threshold and we had to do something beyond warning people. So we could talk about that in requests for proposals.
okay.
That was a nice summary of your letter.
Yeah, that was a good article.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
honestly, if anybody sees anything that bad, it's gonna be going around pretty quickly.
yeah. One last item we have here, I'm sure it's not the last, but so right now we need to set our agenda for next year.
Oh,
So,
Did you get my,
days?
yeah,
yeah,
did you
so,
get the meeting dates? I sent them over to you.
oh, you sent this filled out?
Yep, I did.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
Yep,
Was that one of the downloads?
it's
yeah,
up, yeah, it's already sent out to the town.
it is, okay.
Yep,
Tuesday.
so it's January 5th,
Yeah,
February 2nd,
yeah,
March 2nd,
yeah,
April 6th,
yeah,
May 4th,
yeah,
June 1st,
yeah,
July 6th,
okay,
August 3rd,
yeah,
September 7th,
yeah,
October 5th,
okay,
November 2nd,
yeah.
and December 7th, and then January 4th of 2023. None of you got that, because I sent that darn thing out too.
You may have, I was rushing to
Okay.
get documents printed, so I.
Yeah, I actually think I deleted some emails.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Do you want me to send it back out so you all have it?
No, the only thing I would just ask for discussion is July 6th. Is there any, oops,
What day of the week is it?
it's a Wednesday.
The first Wednesday, the Monday would be the holiday.
Yeah.
It's a holiday.
Yeah, if you want to change it.
Today or July 6th?
It's a Wednesday, it's the middle of the week. Okay.
Yeah, so that, yeah, that should be fine. That should be
Okay.
fine, so.
And what about January 4th of 2023? You okay with that one?
Yeah. I think we'll-
God knows where
Enough time to sober up.
Sounds good. Sounds
Okay,
good.
so then I'll tell her to confirm it.
Yeah, please. That'd be great. All right. And did you send out any of the procedure stuff?
Yes,
You did. You sent that to everybody?
the one on the, inland wetlands,
No, just the one,
the first
notes,
page.
procedures for meetings and minutes and
Oh,
regular
okay.
meetings, special meetings.
I didn't
emergency
send that out. You want me to send that out?
Yeah, if you don't mind, you can send that to the board. I just, there's some, just some general documents. It's good to have a little bit of a refresher.
Okay,
And certainly I'm always open to, improvements if I'm not.
Okay, I'll
in the
send those.
meetings
as well.
Per the,
Now, is anybody having any trouble with their emails?
no, I'm having trouble with time.
Well, that's
So-
I appreciated that.
So.
I see your emails, they come out timely. It's my opening them.
It's not the sending of the email.
It's the
receiving of the email.
Okay. I just want to make sure,
Yeah,
because
no,
I don't typically send
No,
the
just
minutes.
on them all. I
Okay,
have them in
yeah,
the room.
I don't send the minutes out to the board
yeah.
until we're going to get ready to have our meetings. But if you want me to send them when I send them to the town, I will do that.
That, maybe you just, and then it's just, you're sending one email,
Okay,
you know what I mean? And that
All right.
saves you a little bit of time, so.
okay, I'll do that.
If that works.
All right, because that agenda's got to be out to the town
Yeah.
way ahead of our meeting.
Well, let's see, let me look here.
Yeah.
Regular meeting,
Yes.
agenda at least 24 hours before meeting.
Right, otherwise we end up with a special meeting and then whatever we
Yeah.
do doesn't count.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I mean,
Okay.
that works.
All right, so you'll get it in the beginning of the month. For instance, you'll get December's agenda, usually around the beginning to the middle of the month. because I just want to get it out there with the minutes.
Mhm.
According to the
Right.
town, they would prefer to have the minutes of the meeting within, what is it, 48 or 72 hours after our
Well, it
meeting.
says, oh, yeah, the minutes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I usually
minutes?
send them all together,
Yeah.
but if you don't want that and you want to delay
No,
them,
no, if you could send the agenda, what do they want, like a week before or something?
the agenda, yeah, well, they would prefer it sooner because they want to post it.
Well, right, but they,
But
They
don't we
want
have to approve them before?
no, the
No.
agenda.
No, the agenda,
Oh,
Mary.
thank
The
you.
town would
Sorry.
like to have the agenda as early as possible, so that if town residents want to come to a lake management meeting, they would like to post it.
Yeah.
The reason that they want the minutes is because they would like to have the agenda for the next month at the same time. But I can hold off on the agenda as long as I get it there 24 to.
I was gonna say, you know,
Are there legal stuff in it?
let's say a week,
Yeah.
let's say a week before the meeting, let's send out
Yeah,
the
and,
agenda.
and hopefully, as long as we keep general categories, we can bring up most anything anyway.
Yeah, well, like you said, we can't change that agenda, or not the agenda, the minutes.
Right.
Yeah, no, yeah, not the, yeah, just the agenda, yeah. Okay,
Okay, you got it.
all right, cool. So anything else for, new business?
I think so.
I think that's all I have. All right,
No old business? All right, we did old business
I
already.
think
We need to deal with the fact that we have RFPs coming in.
Yeah,
And we need to be spending time reviewing those. And we need to likely decide that we're gonna choose at least 2 people to interview.
for water monitoring,
Pardon?
for water monitoring.
Right.
Yeah.
And we might want, you know, if we were gluttons for punishment, we would interview more, because every person we interview, we get to ask questions and get free information.
Yeah.
So
So when are those coming?
they're due back in this month, are they not, Mary?
November 15th.
And when do we need to make a decision by?
We want to have them on board for the springtime.
Okay.
And so we want them to likely be starting March or April.
Henry, what's our fiscal calendar? It may have to be with the town fiscal calendar. Yes? Just
So
ask.
who do we have now?
Well,
And who do we have as
Enviro Systems from, you know,
virus system?
yeah, or.
Oh, I
I'm sorry.
forgot that article. Portman had an article in the Journal Inquirer about him retiring.
And that was Courtney's new group, right?
we had,
Ecosystem.
I thought we rushed all of this stuff, Mary, to get it in, so because we were picking people who are gonna be starting
Okay.
in the spring. I'll check with Mark again, but we don't wanna have somebody
That's a good level.
changing of the guard on June 30. That's a lousy time to be paying anybody. I would just.
Yeah,
assume
no,
that-
I don't think it has to coincide with.
Yeah, I just think we're taking whatever budget we have this year to pay for whatever we have left this year. And,
Yeah.
and if we need to increase it because
Yeah.
the cost is gonna be more, we'll just
Yeah.
backload it.
So
Well,
Got it.
don't forget our.
people we have now have all Courtney's information.
salaries.
All the
Do we
stuff
have
that
any
Courtney has.
applications?
So I don't know if it'd be a great idea to jump ship with them and find someone that has no history with our lake. though. Is
Well,
that-
they're still gonna have somebody come in and give you a proposal. and
Do we
listen
have
to their-
proposals?
You have them?
Do we have proposals in yet?
I don't know the answer to that. You mean people that have submitted?
Yes.
They usually wait till the last minute so that nobody else knows that they've submitted.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll see proposals come in until November 15th, and then hopefully we'll have, 3 or 4, or at least two or three.
I'm aware of
You want
one.
it on the agenda?
I'm aware of one.
On the agenda for
Just
the
put it on the
You're aware of
agenda
one
for
that'll
our
be coming?
RFP, water monitoring RFP review.
But
My
if we
understanding-
ask,
I'm aware Ecosystem is working on theirs, and my understanding Solitude is working on one. Those are the two that I'm aware of.
Well, those are two that we work with, so.
these things are likely to be 100 pages
Yeah,
long,
so,
because we've asked
I know.
for a lot of information and so forth. It's, important to us. So it's gonna take time to look them over and prepare. And I think we need to have likely some special meetings.
probably, and I think,
So I would think
Right in the
would-
middle of my season.
we might be looking to do interviews in January, early February,
right,
and make a decision, but we're going to
yeah,
be having things heads up, start to review on November 15th.
yeah, I mean, as soon as
Going
we have,
forward. But we also need to have a regular meeting in December, so we can't spend a lot of time talking
about, right,
about this and where we're going. So I would ask the question of whether we want to set up a special meeting in December, just for purposes of comparing notes on the RFPs, or whether we want to set up a special meeting in January.
Well,
early January.
I would say let's get the proposals on the 15th would be my vote is that, let's get the proposals, send them out to the committee. And then in December, we could see who we have, how many, who we think are,
How big they are.
how big they are, right?
The
Christmas
problem,
present.
the historic problem with that, I'll say, is you'll have a hard time getting a date for a special meeting that everybody can get to, because we're too close to it. If you plan now, when you got 6 weeks,
Yeah.
you can hold the date. So we should, I would encourage us to agree to hold certain dates for a special meeting, rather than wait and try to look at calendars, because we'll never get everybody together.
So when
I don't know that I
do
can commit to a date right now, other than this date in December.
Okay.
Right now, my schedule is very,
Crazy.
very up in the air. But I mean, if you want to put it, if you want to suggest a date, I'd say, put it out there.
Okay,
Could we do it? Could we do it in January? Because my
That's what
December,
I was saying, was we're meeting on January 5.
yeah, I got that.
and We could, you want to have 2 in the same week and meet Thursday or Tuesday, or Tuesday is probably too close to the holiday.
No,
We could meet-
can't do it. How about the following week, the 12th or the 19th?
Well, we're getting too close to having to make decisions at that point, because you've also got to give time to invite people and bring them in.
Yikes.
can you do a Zoom meeting in December? Is that easier for everybody, rather than to have to come in?
It's just with the holidays, plus my job, it's just, I'm spent. But suggest a date and I'll throw it in there and we'll figure it out.
Well, let's do the 12th
Of what?
of January.
The 12th of January, let me get there. Holy moly, I don't have a game. That's good.
So that's the first special meeting?
Yeah, did you say you had a problem with that, Mary?
No, I'm wide open.
Okay, let's do the 12th. And
Special meeting, LMAC.
everybody will have to have had, because we're not having an earlier meeting, be prepared to discuss it, and we'll look to pick who we're going to be talking with, but we need to probably be thinking that we're
Somebody in
need,
February.
2 other dates in January and February for interviews. We
Yeah,
can do multiple interviews in one night if we
face it right.
start and go long. We could start with one at 6:30 and tell somebody else to show up at 8 o'clock.
Okay, again, I think it'd be easier to do this when we have the proposals and we know how many that we want to interview.
Yeah,
So it would be a
we're
combination of
supposed to
us
get
and
the
the selectmen?
proposals. Wait,
No,
we're supposed to get the
well,
proposals. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're supposed to get the proposals in 12 days, 12 days.
15, yep.
Okay, so can they be distributed? And then once we know how many and how many pages and how much we have to review, they can be distributed to the committee and then say, okay, in December, we got to do this, in January, we got to do that, whatever.
Well, December, we're having our regular meeting. It
Right.
was said that we don't want to have another meeting in December.
Well, why don't we plan that our meeting in December might go until 10 o'clock. And that we will reserve an hour of that meeting for a preliminary conversation to organize where we're going.
This is December 1st.
So
Phyllis, is that when the meeting is? December 1st?
December 1st of this year?
Yes, December 1st.
Okay, 2:30, 5:30. Yeah, okay. I should be home by then. Happy to do it. If everybody else is open.
I am at a board meeting in Vermont, well, December 1st.
1st is our Wednesday meeting.
I'm at a board meeting in Vermont, but I'll be able to attend by Zoom.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll set aside an hour for reviewing.
An organizational hour.
Okay.
We could, everybody won't have been responsible for having gone through all the materials.
Yep.
Well,
Right.
just enough to have a taste for it, so we can talk about how we're gonna organize going forward, but we'll hold the 12th of January as a potential
Review.
date to make a determination of who the interview candidates are gonna be.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
And do we have established criteria by which we're measuring?
It's set forth in the RFP, but we left it pretty wide open that it's completely in our discretion.
Yeah, I have to go back and review the RFP. We should probably put together some sort of an evaluation sheet and or set of questions.
Yeah,
Yep.
it would be great. Yeah, is somebody gonna be talking to Mark Walter?
Well, I'll follow through with it.
Yeah, why don't you ask him to send us out a copy of the RFP before the 15th, that way people can take a moment to just look at what people are responding to before the responses come in.
I have the RFP. I'm happy to send it out and then with obviously the board's review, put together some sort of an evaluation sheet and or list of questions that we can add or delete to or whatever. Kind of like the process you're doing, Mike, for the subcommittee.
Okay.
So you're gonna do that, Mary?
Oh, of course not. Yes, I'm happy to.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Okay, 1, 2, 3 things.
Items? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I didn't make the motion, so I'm calling for the motion.
I'm begging for the motion.
All right, so I heard you have made a motion, and I heard you say it, so, all in favor? Peace.
Everybody,
Have a good night, Mary.
Good night,
good night, everybody. I'll try